It was a quiet evening in the small town of Pine Hill. The sun had just gone down and the sky was turning dark purple. 10-year-old Ethan Brooks was walking alone through the woods near his house, as he always did after dinner. He loved exploring the forest. It felt like a secret world where anything could happen. That night, something did happen. As Ethan walked deeper into the trees, he suddenly heard a loud sound. It was like thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. Then came a bright flash, and the ground shook. Birds flew out of the trees in all directions. Ethan's heart pounded. "What was that?" he whispered. He ran toward the sound, dodging branches and jumping over roots. The air smelled strange, like metal and burning. After a few minutes, he saw it. There, in a small clearing, was a crashed spaceship. It wasn't big, only the size of a van. It was silver, shaped like a smooth egg, and smoke was rising from its back. Glowing blue lights blinked slowly on its sides. One of the doors was open, and something was moving inside. Ethan slowly walked closer. He wanted to run away, but something pulled him forward. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was something else, something important. He peeked inside the ship. Lying on the floor was a girl, but she wasn't human. She had silver skin, long white hair, and big purple eyes that glowed in the dark. Her body was small, maybe the same size as Ethan's, but she was wearing a strange black suit with glowing lines. She looked scared and hurt. She opened her mouth and spoke, but Ethan couldn't understand the words. They sounded soft and musical, like a song from another world. "It's okay," Ethan said, kneeling beside her. "I won't hurt you." She stared at him for a moment, then closed her eyes. Her body was shaking. Ethan didn't know what to do, but he knew she needed help. He carefully helped her out of the pod and pulled her behind a large fallen tree. She was light, like she weighed almost nothing. That night, Ethan brought food from his backpack, just a sandwich and some cookies. He gave them to her. She looked at them with confusion, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened. She smiled for the first time. Ethan smiled back. He didn't ask questions. He just sat beside her and watched the stars appear in the sky. Over the next few days, Ethan returned to the woods again and again. He brought more food, water, and even a blanket from home. The girl, who still hadn't told him her name, started to get better. She could sit up, walk slowly, and even laugh. One afternoon, she touched her chest and said, "Zira." Ethan pointed at himself and said, "Ethan." She repeated it slowly. "Ethan," he laughed. Close enough. They didn't speak the same language, but they started to understand each other. They used drawings in the dirt, hand signs, and simple sounds. Zira showed him a small device from her ship, a glowing orb that floated and showed star maps. She pointed to one star and then to herself. "That's your home?" Ethan asked. She nodded. Zira also showed him a tiny picture, her family. 2 tall aliens stood behind her wearing long robes. They looked proud. Ethan could tell Zira missed them. One night, while they sat by a small fire, Zira pointed to the sky and then to her wrist. She made a motion like a ship flying. Ethan understood. "They're coming?" he asked. She nodded. But her face didn't look happy. It looked sad. On the 5th day, Ethan woke up early. He planned to sneak some of his mom's leftover stew and bring it to Zira. But as he stepped outside, he noticed something strange in the sky. 3 huge shapes floated above the clouds, black, triangle-shaped ships. They moved slowly and silently. Nobody else in town seemed to notice them yet. Ethan ran to the forest. When he reached the clearing, Zira was standing there. Her ship was glowing again. The lights had turned bright green. The orb she had shown him before was now spinning quickly. She turned and looked at him. Her eyes were full of tears. "They found you," Ethan said softly. Zira walked toward him and gently placed her hand on his cheek. Then she reached into her suit and pulled out a small silver cube. She handed it to him. "For me?" he asked. She nodded. Just then, a beam of light shot down from the sky. It hit the clearing, lighting up the trees like it was daytime. Ethan covered his eyes. When he looked again, Zyra was floating in the air inside the beam. She waved at him one last time. "Zyra," Ethan shouted. She smiled, and then she was gone. The ships vanished into the sky without a sound. Ethan stood there for a long time, holding the silver cube in his hand. It felt warm. He didn't know what it did. He didn't even know if he'd ever see Zyra again. But he whispered, "I'll never forget you." And deep down, he felt something strange. He believed her when she said she would come back. 15 years had passed since Ethan Brooks saw the alien girl in the woods. He was no longer a curious 10-year-old boy. Now he was 25. He worked as a mechanic in the same small town of Pine Hill. Life was simple, fixing old cars, drinking coffee at the corner diner, and going home to his quiet house just outside town. But sometimes, late at night, he would take out a small silver cube from a wooden box under his bed, Zyra's gift. It had never done anything, not once. But it still felt warm, even after all these years. Ethan had shown it to scientists, even to the military, but no one could figure out how it worked. They told him to keep it. It was harmless, they said. Ethan didn't care if it was useless. To him, it was proof that she was real, that Zyra was real. He remembered her glowing eyes, her gentle touch, her smile before the beam took her away. Every time he looked at the stars, he wondered, did she remember him too? One night, everything changed. It was late, almost midnight. Ethan was in bed staring at the ceiling when the windows shook. A deep humming sound filled the air. The lights flickered. He jumped up and ran to the door. Outside, the sky was glowing. A massive alien ship hovered silently above the forest where he had found Zyra years ago. It was huge, bigger than any building Ethan had ever seen. Black and silver, shaped like a crescent moon, with lights running across its hull like rivers of stars. People in town screamed. Alarms rang. The news started calling it an unknown alien threat. The military scrambled jets, but none dared to shoot. The ship didn't attack. It just waited. And then a voice came, not from any speaker, but inside Ethan's mind. "Ethan Brooks, step outside. You are being summoned by the Queen of the Lunari Empire." His heart froze. Lunari? That was the name Zyra once whispered when pointing at the stars. Without thinking, Ethan grabbed the silver cube. It pulsed with a bright white light. For the first time in 15 years, it was glowing. He stepped outside. A beam of soft blue light touched the ground in front of his house. Slowly, it formed a staircase, floating in midair. At the top was a tall figure, waiting. She wore a shining cloak of silver and violet, and her face was calm, but proud. Her long white hair moved like silk in the windless air. A glowing crown floated above her head. It was her Zyra, but she wasn't a scared girl anymore. She was a queen. The townspeople watched in silence. Phones were recording. Soldiers held their weapons but didn't fire. Zyra floated down the stairs. She didn't speak to anyone else. Her glowing eyes searched the crowd and stopped when they found Ethan. She stepped in front of him. Neither of them said a word. She lifted her hand and gently touched his face, just like she had done as a child. Her voice was soft, royal, but familiar. "Ethan," he smiled. "Zyra." Her lips curved slightly. "You kept the cube." He nodded. "It never worked, but I never gave up." She looked at him for a long time, then turned to the crowd and spoke in perfect English. "This human saved me when I was nothing. When I was lost, broken, and afraid. He gave me kindness. I never forgot. The people stared. Some were afraid, others were amazed. I promised to return, she said, and now I have. Then, without asking, she turned to Ethan again. May I enter your home? Ethan blinked. You want to come in? Yes, she said. We must talk. Alone. Inside his small living room, nothing had changed much since his childhood. The furniture was old but clean. Zyra looked around with quiet interest. She touched the photo on the wall of Ethan and his parents. You still live here? She asked. I never left, Ethan replied. I always thought, maybe one day you'd come back. Zyra sat on the couch like she had done it 100 times before. She didn't feel like a queen anymore, just a friend who had been away for a very long time. You saved my life, Ethan, and now I need your help again. Ethan leaned forward. What do you mean? She looked down. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. I rule over 50 planets now. The Lunari Empire is strong, but the Galactic Council does not want peace with humans. They fear your kind. They say you're unpredictable, dangerous. Ethan frowned. We've never attacked anyone. They don't care, Zyra said softly. They only care about control. I believe peace is possible. I want to open contact with Earth, build bridges between us. But if I do that, they will try to take my throne. Then why risk it? He asked. She looked into his eyes. Because of you. Because of what you showed me when I was a child. Kindness, hope. I want my people to know that side of humanity. Ethan sat quietly. You want me to help? He finally asked. Zyra nodded. Not as a soldier, as a symbol. A living memory. Someone the people can believe in. I need you to come with me, to stand beside me when I speak to the council. Ethan looked out the window. The massive alien ship was still floating silently. Above the town. I'm just a mechanic, he said. I don't know anything about politics or empires. She smiled. But you know about courage. That's enough. He thought for a moment. Then he stood up. All right, he said. I'll go with you. Zyra stood too, her eyes shining brighter. Thank you, Ethan. Minutes later, the people of Pine Hill watched in silence as Ethan Brooks walked side by side with the alien queen up the glowing staircase. The doors of the alien ship opened, and they disappeared inside. The ship rose slowly into the clouds and vanished without a sound. On Earth, the questions would begin. Who was she? Why did she choose him? What would happen next? But Ethan didn't care about the questions. He had made a promise 15 years ago, and now his journey among the stars was just beginning. The Lunari ship was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. As soon as the doors closed behind him and Zyra, soft blue light filled the hallway. The walls weren't made of metal, but something smooth and warm, like living glass. Strange glowing. Symbols moved slowly along the surface, as if the ship was alive and thinking. Zyra walked beside him, calm and graceful, her long silver cloak flowing behind her. 2 Lunari guards followed at a respectful distance, dressed in shining armor that shimmered with color. Ethan, wearing his worn-out jeans and a hoodie, felt out of place. Are you sure you want me on this ship? He whispered. Zyra gave him a soft look. You still don't understand, do you? Understand what? You're not just a mechanic. You're part of my past, and now you might be part of my people's future. Ethan didn't know what to say. The elevator they stepped into had no buttons. Zyra placed her hand on the wall, and the room began to rise, fast but smooth. He couldn't even feel movement. When the doors opened, Ethan's jaw dropped. They were in the command chamber. It was a massive dome-shaped room with a ceiling that showed the stars in real time. Alien officers stood around glowing panels, working in silence. In the center was a floating platform with a wide circular table. Holograms of different planets hovered above it. Ethan noticed something strange. Each Lunari bowed slightly when Zyra walked by, but they also looked at him. Some were curious, some confused. Others, not so happy. Zyra led Ethan to a quiet side room with tall windows looking out at Earth below. The planet glowed like a marble in space. They sat on soft chairs, and a floating tray brought drinks, clear and bubbling. "This is my private chamber," Zyra said. "No one else can hear us here." Ethan sipped the drink. It tasted like cold, honey and mint. "I still don't get it," he said. "What am I supposed to do?" Zyra leaned forward. "The Galactic Council has sent a warning. They say Earth is growing too fast, too advanced. They fear war. They want me to cut contact." Ethan frowned. "But Earth hasn't even met any aliens until now." "Exactly," Zyra said. "But they think it's better to crush fear before it grows. That's how they rule. With fear." She paused, then added, "They say I'm weak for showing mercy. They say you, a human, saved me because I was helpless. And now, they want me to prove that I stand with them, not with Earth." Ethan's face turned serious. "What does that mean?" "They want me to arrest you," she said quietly. "To put you on trial in front of the council. Let them judge humanity through you." Ethan felt a cold chill in his chest. "Are you going to do that?" he asked, almost afraid of the answer. Zyra shook her head. "No, I made a promise to you as a child, and I still believe in that promise." She stood and walked to the window, staring at Earth below. "But if I protect you," she continued, "they will call it betrayal. They might remove me from the throne. Some of my people might even join them." Ethan stood beside her. "So you brought me here to hide?" "No," she said. "I brought you here to stand with me." The next day, Zyra called a meeting with her royal advisors. The chamber was full of Lunari nobles, commanders, and scientists. They all looked powerful and proud. Some whispered when Ethan entered with the queen. "This is Ethan Brooks," Zyra announced. "The human boy who once saved my life." She looked around the room. "You all know the council's demand. They want me to bring him to trial. But I say no. I say we honor kindness, not punish it." Some Lunari nodded in agreement. Others looked unsure. One tall noble named Varric stood up. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice strong, "you ask us to risk war for one human, a child from a farming planet?" "He's not just a child," Zyra said. "He is the reason I am alive. Without him, there would be no queen." Varric narrowed his eyes. "Then let him speak for himself." The chamber turned to Ethan. He froze for a moment. Then slowly he stepped forward. "I don't know much about your galaxy," he began. "I'm just a mechanic from a small town. But I know this. Fear only grows when we stop talking to each other." He looked around the room. "When Zyra crashed on my planet, I didn't know what she was. I could have run away. I could have called the army, but I helped her. Because she needed help." He held up the silver cube. "She gave me this. I don't know what it does, but to me, it meant she remembered. And that matters." He took a deep breath. "I don't want war. I don't even want power. I just want people to see that peace is possible, even between different worlds." There was silence in the chamber. Then, one by one, some Lunari began to nod. Later that evening, Zyra and Ethan sat in her private chamber again. "You did well," Zyra said. "I was shaking the whole time," Ethan admitted. She laughed softly. "But you spoke from the heart. That's something the council doesn't understand." Ethan looked out the window. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. "What happens now?" he asked. Zyra stood up, her face calm but serious. "We go to the council," she said. "Together." Won't they try to arrest me? They might. But if they do, they'll show the galaxy who they really are. She turned to him. I can't promise safety, Ethan. But I promise this. No matter what happens, I will stand beside you. Ethan nodded. Then let's do it. As the royal ship changed course toward the central planet of the Galactic Council, word spread fast. A human was coming. The Queen of the Lunari was defying the Council, and for the first time in years, the galaxy started to whisper the unthinkable. Maybe the humans were not a threat. Maybe they were hope. The royal ship moved through space like a silent comet, glowing softly as it flew toward the center of the galaxy. Ethan stood near the wide window, watching stars drift by. He still couldn't believe it. Just days ago, he was fixing old cars in a small Earth town. Now, he was flying with an alien queen, his childhood friend, toward the most powerful place in the galaxy, Veltrion, home of the Galactic Council. Behind him, Zira walked into the room. She was dressed in her royal armor, silver plates mixed with soft flowing cloth. A glowing crown floated just above her head. You look ready for battle, Ethan said, half smiling. I am, Zira replied, but not with weapons. This battle is with words and truth. Ethan nodded. He wasn't wearing armor, just a clean black suit the Lunari gave him. He still felt out of place, but he was ready. He had made his choice. As the ship approached Veltrion, Ethan saw it through the window, a planet so huge it looked like a city made into a world. Dozens of space stations floated around it. Giant ships came and went like birds around a nest. At its center was the council tower, shaped like a tall spiral of black stone, reaching high into the clouds. This place feels cold, Ethan whispered. Zira nodded. It is. The council built it to show power, not peace. The ship landed quietly in the royal hangar. Guards in golden armor waited outside. The moment Zira stepped out, they bowed, but not to Ethan. They simply stared. Zira walked proudly with Ethan at her side. Every step echoed through the marble halls. Soon they reached the council chamber, a round room with a glass ceiling, showing stars above. At the center was a circle of high-backed chairs. 13 alien leaders sat there, each from a different species. Zira stepped forward. Queen Zira of the Lunari Empire requesting audience. The oldest counselor, a tall, gray alien with 6 eyes, stood. You come with a human against our warnings, Zira replied calmly. I come with a friend, a symbol of peace. Whispers filled the room. The counselor narrowed his eyes. Peace with Earth is not our concern. We asked you to deliver the human for questioning. No, Zira said. You asked me to betray the one who saved me. I will not. Another counselor, reptilian and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. Then you choose Earth over the council? I choose truth, Zira answered. This human, Ethan Brooks, showed me kindness when I was weak. He could have left me to die, but he saved me, fed me, protected me. If this is the kind of soul Earth creates, then how can we call them a threat? Ethan stepped forward slowly. His hands were shaking, but his voice was clear. I don't know much about this galaxy, he said, but I do know this. Fear leads to war, and trust can lead to peace. One of the counselors scoffed. A child's words, Ethan continued. Maybe, but sometimes simple words are what we need. When Zira landed on Earth, she didn't come to conquer. She came to survive, and I helped her, not because I knew she was a queen, but because she needed help. The room fell silent. Then, slowly, the lead counselor spoke again. You are brave, human. But bravery does not change facts. Earth grows too quickly. We will not risk the balance of the stars. He turned to the others. I vote we remove Queen Zira from the throne. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Zira stood tall. You cannot take my throne without cause. You gave us cause, another counselor said. You stood beside a human. You defied our order. Suddenly, the doors burst open. A group of Lunari nobles rushed in, led by Varek, the tall noble who had once questioned Zira's judgment. He bowed deeply. I speak for the Lunari people, he said, and I say this. Queen Zira has not betrayed us. She has protected our values, honor, truth, and peace. The council glared at him. He stood firm. We will not support her removal, and we will not leave the council, but if forced, we will fight for our queen. One counselor stood up in rage. You dare threaten the council? Varek did not flinch. I remind you, we are not your servants, we are your equals. For the first time, the council chamber shook, with tension, not sound. Back in Zira's private quarters on Veltrion, Ethan sat quietly. He felt exhausted. The meeting had ended, but no final decision had been made. They're afraid of change, he said. Yes, Zira replied, and they are more dangerous because of that. A soft beep came from the table. A hologram appeared, an image of Zira's ship orbiting above. The voice was calm but serious. My queen, council forces are surrounding your flagship. Weapons are being armed. Ethan stood. They're going to attack us. No, Zira said, walking to the window. They want to scare us, break our will. But what if it's more than that? Ethan asked. What if they're planning something bigger? Zira's eyes narrowed. Then we must be ready. An hour later, secret messages were sent from Zira's ship to nearby Lunari allies. Small rebel fleets from free worlds also responded. Many were tired of the council's control. They had been waiting for a spark. Zira's courage was that spark. By the next morning, dozens of ships from different systems surrounded Veltrion, silent but united. A message from the council came. Leave now or be destroyed. There will be no second warning. Zira looked at Ethan. This is it, he nodded. I'm with you. She walked to the command screen and sent a reply. We do not come for war, but we will not kneel. The galaxy watched as two forces stood at the edge of conflict, but no weapons were fired. Instead, messages came from across the stars, from species, traders, colonies, even council citizens. They all asked the same question. Why is the council afraid of one human and one queen? The council's control cracked that day, not by lasers or missiles, but by truth and unity. And in the middle of it all stood Ethan Brooks, the human boy who once offered food to a lost alien girl. Now the stars waited for what would come next. The tension in the galaxy was at its highest. Veltrion, the center of power, had never seen such a challenge. The Galactic Council, once untouchable, was now facing an uprising led by Queen Zira and her human friend, Ethan Brooks. The day of the final confrontation had come. Inside Zira's flagship, the war room was filled with calm energy. The rebel Lunari fleet gathered nearby, ready to support her. The Council's massive warships waited in orbit, prepared to strike. Zira stood before a giant holomap showing the battle lines. Ethan watched her carefully. She looked strong, more than he had ever seen. But her eyes held something else, too. Hope. We don't want to fight, Zira said quietly. But we will if they force us. Ethan nodded. We have to show them we are united. Humans and Lunari together. Suddenly, alarms sounded. Enemy ships are moving to attack, a soldier announced. Zira took a deep breath. Prepare defenses, but wait for my order. Ethan gripped the silver cube in his hand. It pulsed softly, as if alive. The first shots came from the Council's warships, powerful energy beams lighting up space. But Zira's fleet was ready. Their ships moved quickly, using advanced Lunari technology combined with human tactics Ethan had helped teach them. The battle was fierce. Explosions lit the darkness. Ships twisted and dodged in a deadly dance. Ethan felt his heart race. Then, in the middle of the chaos, Zira sent a message to all ships. "Stop fighting. This war benefits no one. Let us talk. Face to face." The message echoed through space. Ow. Council's lead commander frowned but ordered his ships to hold fire. Slowly, both sides moved to a nearby neutral station, a huge platform orbiting a bright star. Zyra and Ethan entered a special chamber to meet the council leaders one last time. The air was tense. Everyone knew this meeting could decide the galaxy's future. The lead counselor spoke first. "Queen Zyra, you have defied us. You brought a human here to challenge our power. Why should we listen to you now?" Zyra stepped forward. "Because the galaxy is changing. Fear and control cannot keep peace forever." She looked at Ethan. "This man saved my life when I was a child. He showed me kindness when I was helpless. Together we represent two worlds, humans and Lunari, ready to build a new future." Ethan nodded. "We want peace. We want friendship. We want to learn from each other." The counselors exchanged uncertain glances. One spoke softly. "And what if the humans betray us?" Ethan smiled. "We have no reason to. Our worlds are different, but our hopes are the same." For hours, they talked. Words flowed like rivers, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. The counselors questioned, argued, and debated, but Zira and Ethan stayed calm, speaking with truth and hope. Finally, the oldest counselor stood. "You have given us much to consider. Perhaps it is time for change." A murmur of agreement spread. The final decision was clear. Queen Zyra would keep her throne, the council would open talks with Earth, and Ethan Brooks would become the first official ambassador between the two worlds. Back on Earth, news spread fast. The small town of Pine Hill watched the skies. A great alien ship landed once more, but this time the alien queen did not hide. Zira stepped down, her crown shining in the sunlight. Beside her was Ethan, not a mechanic anymore, but a man chosen to unite two civilizations. Children stared in wonder. People cheered. For the first time, humans and aliens met not as enemies, but as friends. In the quiet of his home, Ethan looked at the silver cube one last time. It glowed softly. He smiled. His life had changed forever, all because he had saved a lost alien girl in the woods so many years ago. The galaxy was watching, and the story of the boy who saved a queen became a legend of hope, courage, and peace.